That's right. It's the Chris Michaels Show. Tonight, special guest, Travis Misurell. He is the founder of FiNC, Future is Now Coalition, America's civil utility. And FiNC is working to streamline democracy by giving citizens, independent journalists, underdog candidates, and social movements a real way to coordinate and co-build the future of politics. We'll explore many things, like the simple but powerful digital politics lens, up versus down instead of left versus right, that helps people across the political spectrum align on what's actually broken in the system. And then we'll talk about the brand new launch this month, the Digital Politics Hub. Travis, thanks for joining me, Chris Michaels.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's get into this. How did you get started in politics? What made you say enough is enough? Like, it doesn't matter if it's left or right, Democrat or Republican, it's both the wings of the same bird.
Yeah, so kind of in a nutshell, originally pretty much my whole life I just saw the world in a very sociological and psychological perspective, just seeing the different demographics and people's perspectives. So it wasn't really political per se until 2016. Actually, before that, I was almost no politics at all. But it was still like a societal thing. I always see like big pictures and how the world functions and our society functions, things like that. But again, more of a psychological. And then in my career, I do operations and like process improvement. So to me, I see government as like the operations and the processes of our combined society.
Right.
And then it was really 2016 when I saw Trump versus Bernie was starting to get me more interested in what's going on. Both that they're so opposite in so many ways, but in some ways speaking as like populists in the language they would speak. And then I also saw how the system handled that and handled potential anti-establishment candidates. Especially on the Bernie side and the unfairness of how he was treated, whether you agree with his policies or not, like he was treated unfairly as a primary candidate at the time. And so it was all that really got me interested in what's going on.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders was really given the short end of the stick during that primary. I remember he was basically told to go away. And the irony of the whole thing is that, if I remember correctly, Act Blue, that was running the finances for BLM, gave Bernie Sanders the most amount of money out of all the candidates. To me, when I looked at that, I said, is this some kind of payoff that they're giving him? You know, they basically stole it from him, but here's a bunch of cash. Just go away, old man, and don't ask any questions. So, yeah, I mean, that was just a ridiculous attempt to just, in my opinion, steal the vote from Democrat primary voters. So let's see something else here. I mean, you looked at all of this and you said, wait a minute, something has got to completely change with the way American politics is running here. So is there some kind of feeling that you got from people that you were working with that essentially said the political system doesn't work for us anymore, and we have to come up with some kind of way that we can choose leaders and choose politicians rather than just debating the policies that they tout?
Yeah, so pretty much what I saw more and more is that the system does not work the way most people would want it to work. Also, like if the system worked the way it made sense, most people would be happy. It would work in a generally good way. You know, not everyone's going to get everything they want, but we would move in a better direction. And it's the fact that the system is purposely shaped for the concentration of power, the money influence, those that are in charge. It's harder to keep the system broken the way it is than actually letting it go like common sense politics and moving it where it's like people first and just makes sense for the average person. So that's what I saw. And that's also, again, part of my before politics, I see the common denominators of like where, people can see very different realities and perspectives, but there's still a lot of commonality that I see between people. And so with politics, is the same, that, yeah, we're going to argue over certain policies, but like for the way the system actually should work, like having like the politicians being accountable to the people, and like, there should be consequences if they give you promises but then don't deliver on the promises. The system should be modernized. Why can I like I could get a cheeseburger and I know the rating of the cheeseburger, I know the rating of the delivery guy that's going to bring the cheeseburger to my house, but I can't do ratings on my politician in a more objective way. So it just shows that like, digital, like politics in general has not modernized with the rest of society.
No, it really hasn't. And we find out, actually, for me, it was painfully clear, having run for office many, many years ago, that all of these politicians and who wins these races are all decided before the race even begins. It's all done behind closed doors. There are all these deals between Democrats, Republicans, third parties that throw their support behind one candidate or another. And basically they say, okay, if you take this district, we're going to take this one. And then, in the next cycle, we'll switch it up or whatever. So, I mean, that just screams to me that it doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or a Republican. It really doesn't, because if they're making these deals behind closed doors, that means that both of them are aware of the other's policies, and they're working on a schedule to make sure that their policies at some point within the next 2, 3, 4 election cycles get enacted upon. And it's truly sad that the basic American voter, number one, doesn't come out unless it's a presidential election. Number two, doesn't see through that. I mean, I have hope. So the way to plow through all of the murkiness, you've come up with an up-down framework. And this is known as the digital politics lens. So what is that? What is down? What is up? What are all these ratings?
Yeah, so that's one of the fundamental pieces to what we're building, is this lens. So up-serving candidates are the ones that serve big donors. They serve special interests. They turn to those more powerful than them to raise them up in power, where the down-serving candidates are like the grassroots candidates. So they genuinely want voter support and support in numbers. So they actually want to represent you, and they take mostly small dollar donations, and they're actually allowed to fulfill their promises and fight for their promises because they're not paid to push a certain narrative. And, they exist. They're few and far between, the down-serving candidates, but, yes, there's left and right. We're not going to get rid of that anytime soon, but just adding this other lens, like, this is a Republican, this is a Democrat, fine, but are they serving you as a citizen, or are they serving special interests? Or are they just a career politician? So that's the big difference that we want people to realize, that that's more important. Like their Congress could be like half Democrat, half Republican. If they actually served us and they weren't bought out by special interests, things would get better. They would figure out how to work together. They would figure out how to put some kind of policy together that would move the needle forward, make us a little bit more successful. But they're not. They're bought out. So they make it seem like they're so divided, left versus right, but they're really on the side of special interests and those that give them the most money.
Yeah, totally. I mean, what are the metrics that you use to determine whether or not someone is up or down?
So a big thing would be like they're like I mean, there's a small few people that are actually swearing off completely big dollar donations, like Bernie and like AOC. Again, whether you like people agree with their policies or not, that's not for me to say what their policies are, but the fundraising is almost 100% small dollar donations. They don't take big corporate money. They don't take super PAC money. So that's a big basis. The average dollar per donation is a good indicator. If your average donation is over $200, that means you're not getting a ton of little money. You're getting a larger sum, like bigger chunks of money. So we haven't put our foot down exactly where it goes. We want to get more input from society at large before we really set a specific numbers, but it's really around like the average donations, how much of big donations, do they take big corporate, it's really corporate money and super PAC money are the biggest red flags.
Right. And I'm assuming you're aware of James O'Keefe, and the former head of Project Veritas and all that. I've got my disagreements with him and all that, but they exposed, I guess, last year or the year before, smurfing, where you had Act Blue that basically committed fraud, as far as I can tell, and made hundreds of thousands of donations, small dollar donations, in the name of, mom and pa down the block who barely makes enough money to just earn, a living. And somehow they're donating $30, $40, $50,000 to some Democrat candidate. Does your metric factor in potential smurfing?
No, not this stage. I mean, that's like, we haven't done the staging of, we haven't gotten to the steps of like building in like
Right.
these algorithms and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not, but I'm gonna look into that more because I haven't looked that far into that. But I will after this conversation. Smurfing, you're calling it?
Yeah, I believe that's what it's called, smurfing, and they all do it. It's just that James O'Keefe was the one that called out Act Blue. And that's just the biggest line of evidence that it occurs. I mean, to assume that the Republicans don't do it either, I mean, it's foolish. I mean, they all do it, right? You call it what it is. It's just some way for people to, or large corporations or wealthy individuals, wealthy foreigners or whatever, right, to just donate anonymously to these various PACs and then get Act Blue or somebody else to dole out the funds in small dollar amounts, so it slides under the radar. But if you go by address, you find out that people that are on, I don't know, Social Security somehow dump 100 grand into somebody's campaign, and you're going, how was this possible? It seems as though that these people donated to somebody somewhere along the lines in their political history. Maybe it was the most recent cycle or a couple of cycles ago before that. And so their address is on file. You can get those voter rolls. You can get the super voters or the super primary voters and all that stuff. It's all readily available if you know where to go. So it just seems as though that's part of it. And I want you to succeed in your endeavor with all of this. So I would definitely look into that and look up James O'Keefe, because you only can assume that this is going to be happening everywhere, and more of it's going to get exposed as we go on into a more AI driven future, right? I mean, that's scary business, AI driven policies and what was that?
I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just a scary semi-dystopian future that we're headed down.
It's
very bizarre.
And to be clear too, like the way we're handling this, it's really a two-phase approach. Like right now, we just released the Digital Politics Hub, and
so tell us about that.
Yeah, so right now, phase one is really about coordination. We want to get citizen buy-in of like what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it. We really want citizen oversight before we really start going into phase two. Phase two is digital democracy. So that's the end goal, where like all candidates are showcased equally. You can see all their funding sources, conflicts of interest, ratings on like how good are they keeping their promises, like, and then so much more. But that, again, that's phase two. Before we could even really start getting into that, and that's where we would have the calculations to determine like how much small dollar donations people get. Before we get there, though, we want the citizen oversight, citizen buy-in. The literally digital democracy will be citizen owned, where citizens can opt into equal ownership of this technology. So we just need first we just need mass amount of support of people that are in this part of this, that they're giving feedback. Some people are going to be building this with us, different movements, journalists, average citizens. So that's part of why it's a two-phase approach, because a lot of what we're doing is going to be deeply, deeply complex. And so we want to have like a whole slew of developers figuring out the right algorithms to calculate these different numbers, and how can we trace dark money the best way, and the smurfing and any kind of ways that people get around this stuff. We want to just build the best system to really track all the different intricacies that can be happening. And then forever after, it's always going to be a battle. They're always going to try to get a step ahead, and then we're going to have to catch up. And
of course.
But like, so the key though here is that we want to build this with America. We're not just, this isn't like, oh, we're going to build a tool and hand it to America. This is like, we're coordinating this massive upgrade of democracy that we want to involve everyone from podcasters to average citizens to the underdog candidates, everyone, everyone that doesn't want to be part of the broken system.
100%. I see this as a way to level the playing field. I also see it as a way to potentially unite Americans. Finally. Let's stop talking about left versus right, because guess what? Everyone will vote for a war. Everyone will vote for, the NDAA at the end of every single year. I think Trump upped it to what, $1.5 trillion for the Department of War or something like that. I thought this was supposed to be the peace president.
Right.
So that's not happening. So how do you view this as leveling the playing field for everybody? An average ham and egger out there that just votes during the presidential election cycle.
Yeah. So and there's so many layers to it, obviously, but one of it is making it easier, more digestible for average people. So one of the dreams for digital democracy is you go to one place, you put in your zip code, here's all the candidates running, Democrat, Republican, third party, independent, everyone listed side by side. So both it's easier for the citizen, but then also easier for the candidates. And also like it starts weakening the need to raise money, because right now they like an average senator or House member needs literally millions of dollars per election to advertise themselves. It's all for billboards and commercials and stuff. But like if everyone knew that all citizens are here and all candidates are here, every candidate gets a voice on this platform, you don't need the millions to be heard. Everyone gets their chance. Everyone has their moment to shine as a candidate. And then so now instead of raising the most money, your job is to actually resonate with the citizens, prove you're the best candidate, go through virtual debates, town halls, everything online, an easier way to communicate, but there's going to be more transparency, and people are going to see the skeletons in the closet, and they're going to, so there's pros and cons. If you're not a scummy politician, it's all great. And if you are a scummy politician, people are going to see a lot more of your baggage than they used to.
Yeah, exactly. And Lord knows, we've got walk-in closets full of skeletons all the way down to the local level. So can we play a little quiz game? Can I name a candidate and you say up or down and why?
I mean, I'd rather, we're trying to like avoid opinion stuff right now. Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not opinion. So I just wanted it based upon your data. I don't want your personal opinion.
Well, we don't have that. We're not like calculating that yet. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No worries. Then we don't have to do that. We can skip right over it. So I guess my next question would be, how would you amalgamate the data to come up with an up or down rating?
Yeah. So like, first of all, what people don't know is that there's a lot of the funding information is public, especially state and federal.
Right. Yep.
So there's sites like opensecrets.org. Then there's like the FEC website. So the direct like funding sources, a lot of the like straightforward money is all public. Like to your point earlier, there's going to be some, that dark money is getting more and more as a play, and that's harder to track. But so really it's part like plugging in the current public sources, aggregating that into this information, then also incorporating AI to track, find other means to track some of the funding sources. Even if like you can't track where the dark money is coming from, long as you know that, okay, this person took 10% of dark money, maybe we don't know what that 10% is about, but like if anyone's taking dark money, you should not be supporting them at all. So we're going to make like, really, really show people like if somebody's taking untraceable money, you should not be supporting them. Like that is just, it could, could be so many different things.
Yeah.
So in terms of the funding sources specifically, it's just like aggregating all the existing public funding sources, and then supplementing it with AI and other means to just pull as much data from different places as possible. Another piece to like what we're doing is like we're not necessarily like, it's again, we're like us at FiNC, we're not even the ones that are going to be that hands-on with the tech itself. We want to plug in what already exists.
Right.
Like there's already civic technologies. This is what Open Secrets has been doing for over a decade, is they nonstop do research for state and federal politicians. So we want to plug in there's like all these existing technologies and existing resources that just most people don't know they exist. And so we want to interconnect them, prop them up, amplify what they're doing, give them the support they deserve, but then plugging them into one giant centralized system that the citizens own. Like not FiNC, not anyone, but the citizens will be owning this.
Right. No, I completely get it. At least if the citizens own it, then at least you do not have some kind of interest that can come in and put their thumb on the scale.
Yes.
You see that all the time.
Yes.
Every time, like a company, like a health food company or an organic company, all of a sudden makes it big. You've got these large corporations and private equity groups that swoop in, and then lo and behold, you're right back to square one. The reason why you bought the product is no longer there, but you're still paying the premium for it. So making it grassroots, I think, is key to all of this, because I agree with you. We need to cut through a lot of the nonsense that we hear out there with politics. And unfortunately, a lot of these PACs, they put their thumb on the scale when it comes to commercials and propaganda and polling. I mean, during an election cycle, I eviscerate the polls, because all you have to do is kind of go through the actual universe and the population that the pollsters have drawn upon, and you can see right away, like, oh, okay, a Republican is running in a certain district, so they're only going to poll independents that lean right, so that they can claim, I polled independents. Okay. Well, you polled a district that has voted Republican 90% of the time over the past 10 election cycles, but the majority voter is registered as independent. I mean, it's just silly. It's silly nonsense.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
It's totally ridiculous. I mean, and it's the same thing on the Democrat side too. So do you folks intend to incorporate polling data into all of this too?
Yeah, the long-term plan is really part of digital democracy will be having direct polling from the American people. So everyone that signs in, they'll be the polling. But obviously that's going to take years to be accurate, to have a big enough sample size. But so we're gonna find the most accurate ways to do, like, it'd be matching aggregating existing polling data with the new data that we start plugging into, and then slowly, as our sample size gets bigger, it weighs heavier. But we'd be looking at like more of the reputable ones, like Gallup, and we do extensive research before deciding which ones ultimately to plug into. But yeah, we would absolutely be trying to plug in polling, but we have to offset, like you said, there's biases all over the place. So we have to make sure to offset that as best as possible.
Now, is this a way to bypass a lot of gatekeepers that we see out there? I mean, I referenced the political elites behind closed doors that decide elections before the primaries are even completed. I mean, I think this would be a very good way to just get around all of that decision making and actually have some kind of visibility for the average voter.
Yeah. We literally call it, where we want to bypass the establishment. That's pretty much the core of it. We want to build an election system so citizens actually decide who they want to vote for. Like, so building a citizen-owned system that the manipulation is not part of it, the distractions, all the BS is outside. Everything internal is objective data. Here's everyone side by side. No one's being pushed to certain decisions. We want you to vote for who's going to actually represent you, but we're also going to call out, this person has conflicts of interest. You might want something I don't agree with, but I'm going to still try to find you the person that actually will push what you want there. So we find this, whether this ends up allowing third parties and independents to succeed, or maybe we're still stuck in a two-party, but we get better Democrats and better Republicans. Either way, that's going to be up to America to decide. But like, it's everything you're saying there. We want to bypass all the influence and go right to the citizens, plug citizens directly to the candidates, and cut out the manipulation. Like part of that manipulation is just them saying that, oh, this candidate's not viable. Nobody wants this candidate. It's like, well, all the polling says the opposite. You're just saying they're not electable because you don't want them to win, not because you don't think they have a chance.
Sure.
So we're trying to cut out all the manipulation that the establishment media, the party gatekeepers, and the corporate funding all has to be is outside of this system. Out there's noise and manipulation. Inside digital democracy is objectivity and the right, and you decide your own opinion, but the information is going to be there for you to access without being manipulated. So yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, is to bypass all that manipulation.
Yeah. How do you see this playing out during I don't know, let's say everything is up and running, and in a perfect world, how do you see this working in, let's say, a 2028 presidential election? So your data is compiled. What can the average citizen look forward to during an election cycle?
Yeah. So first of all, like even like in the full long term, we would envision a more direct democracy where instead of a candidate being like, oh, well, I'm a Democrat, so these are my policies, and they're all vague anyway. And instead of that, like I'm running for this district, so let me pull up the polling data. What does this district want? Oh, they stand on this on immigration. They stand on that with the minimum wage. They stand on this, and build their policies based on what their district actually wants. And that's how politicians would shape it. Maybe it's not 100% that way, but like at least have some correlation between what your people actually want and what you're fighting for. So that's one side, is like, and however the parties end up being, maybe it's still two parties, maybe it's other parties, that's the system will handle either way. And then in terms of like the presidentials and in general, we envision a people's primary, which we hope to have by 2028, where like, even though the Democrats and Republicans are going to have their rigged primary, we're going to host our own digital primary, people's primary, where it could be a Green Party running against a Libertarian, running against an independent, everyone. It could even be grassroots Democrats and Republicans all running in the same race. And then we run our own primary and then find out who do the citizens actually want before the general election. And it might turn out in one race, it might be that there's not enough votes for the alternative candidate and you have to vote for the lesser of two evils. But then in this race, it looks like the Libertarian actually stands a chance to win the Senate race. And,
sure,
so it'd be a way to like really see the genuine electability and how popular are these people actually before you go into the general election.
Yeah, totally. There was a third party by me on Long Island in New York, called the Independence Party, and it got on the ballot. So, if you were trying to register to vote, you would see the Independence Party, and it was a slick way to get people to register because they thought independent, and in fact, no, they're registering for this third party. And it turns out that this third party on the local and county elections actually had a lot of sway. And they were the ones that were making or breaking a few judge races. I forgot the official title that they have here, superintendent of the towns in a few areas, and council members, and they were making or breaking certain little bits of these elections. But if you knew anything about them, you'd be like, they're just scam artists.
Wow.
They fooled people into registering for their party because the people that wanted to actually get out there and vote, they thought they were saying, forget Democrat and Republican. Meanwhile, they're going down this road. And it's like, you guys are just slime, utter slime.
Wow.
So if there's something that can be done right now, what can people do to contribute?
Yeah, so right now, come to our digital politics hub. It's hub.futureis.org. It just launched now, so it's still in a very, very infant stage. But just check it out so far. You could put your name as a citizen architect, as somebody that wants to have a voice in this, wants to support what we're doing. There's different actions that you could take to help spread the word, get the awareness. again, basically we're trying to build our network, our digital politics network of like, we want as many people involved before we really go hard on the digital democracy build out. We want as many citizens involved. We want to do focus groups, polling, surveys. So this first stage of like adding your name and support, being, spreading the word. There's a section where you could plug in trusted voices that you like. So if you trust a certain journalist or candidate, if you think there's certain people that would be a good part of this, anything from a journalist to a candidate, there's a form to fill out, and we'll actually contact them and try to pull them into this network. Donate if you can. We're all grassroots funding, so it's like we're trying to get the $5, $10 at a time, but from a lot of different people. It's the only way this can work is by not being able to be bought out. And check it out now, but keep checking it out. Even the next couple of weeks, it's going to get major. There's going to be major upgrades to the hub, more information, we're fixing our journey, the initial experience when you go on our hub. Right now, it's again very, very infant, but you'll see how fast it progresses over the next couple weeks and months. And so it's both the hub and then it plugs into Discord as well. So our community building is on Discord, and then the actions you take are on the hub. And then the more you learn about it, there's so many layers to it. Like the hardest part is just saying it as concise as possible, but there's literally decades of plans of how this can keep unfolding, and it's all to the advantage of the average person and truly being a more democratic system.
Absolutely. And finally, I want to ask you a question. What keeps you optimistic about all of this? Because I've been in politics or studying politics for quite some time, and I am looking at almost every single election with a jaundiced eye. I'm giving the whammies to people because I can see through the nonsense. So on some level, I assume that you have to be optimistic. And so what keeps you driven for this altruistic goal?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, it's just the way I can see it. Like I really zoom out. Like my whole life, a very bird's eye view of things, and like really looking as much of the big picture as possible. And as horrible as things are, and like it's rigged, it's so broken, so much manipulation. But at the same time, people are so desperate for change. They don't like the way the system is. For the first time in modern history, there's more people identifying as independent than Democrat or Republican. And, in 2024, 63% of Americans said they want a viable third-party option. And, trust in government, all-time low. Trust in media, all-time low. That's why we're moving the podcast. They trust a random podcast or like an independent journalist over the establishment media, where those 6 companies own 90% of TV media. So people are really waking up. They know the system isn't working. They know it's broken. And the key here is most people are just frozen. They don't know what to do. They want to do something. I've spoken to over 1,000 people in the last couple of years with this. And, most people are frozen. They want to do something. They just don't know what could they actually do to make a change. And then some people are doing things they think is going to make a change, but it's kind of still the same rigged patterns. Like, I don't want to knock like protesting. There's a place for like protesting and calling your senator, but like the system has gotten so much worse. It's not got the same effort, the same strategies as the olden days isn't going to work. It needs to become a digital strategy, and upgrade with the current times. So in kind of in a nutshell, I see where the people want things to go, and it's just more of like, the division. The system's very good at keeping us divided and fighting each other rather than them. So that's a big piece to it, and there's just there's these different pieces, but ultimately, the more the right answer, the common sense way of doing things starts coming into the forefront, it's just going to click more for people. Digital politics, the lens that we're talking about has all new language that's non-divisive. You could be anywhere on the political spectrum and be like, yeah, this makes sense. Like, yeah, I don't want money in politics. Yeah, I don't like insider trading in Washington. Yeah, I don't want them to be smoking cigars in a back room deciding who wins the primary. So I could see how people are ready for change, and it's the only battle is overcoming the manipulation of the concentration of power, which is huge, but it's still only like a fraction of the population.
That's true. I mean, it is a daunting task, and I
Yeah.
commend you for your effort because I think I assume you're younger than me. You know, I'm a lofty 40-plus-year-old, but I have hope for the younger generations out there because they seem that much more altruistic. And I read an article that not many of the younger generations are actually drinking. It seems to be that the older generations in my group, um, we kind of took that on from the baby boomer generation where, you can't live out a Friday or a Saturday unless you're in a fog. But there is some clear-headedness that the younger generations have, and they start asking these questions. Why am I living like this?
Yeah.
But what do you mean I'm hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt and I've been paying this school loan for 10 years and yet I owe even more than what I started out with? Like, how is this possible? This is insane. So I do wish you the best of luck in what you're doing, and do not be a stranger. Travis, where can people find you on social media? What is your website again? And tell everyone what they can do right now to help you along in your journey.
Yeah, so our general website is futureis.org. If you go to hub.futureis.org, that's where the digital politics hub is. On our socials, we're at futureis.org. All one word. We're on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, most of the usuals, which you can also see that on our website. And yeah, go to the hub, add your name as a citizen architect, donate if you have a few bucks. At the bottom has Fund the Hub there. And just check us out, spread the word. Like I know, like on all socials, people just say like, oh, share and subscribe and all that stuff, but it really does help us. We need to show the buy-in. We need to grow the algorithm. We need more people to know about this, because it truly, no one is doing what we're doing and how we're doing it. And the more you look into it, the more you'll see that, and we could prove it over time and with our answers and stuff. So yeah.
All right, there you go. This is the moment that you, listener, can get in on the ground floor by becoming an architect with Travis. And I think this is a worthy endeavor, by the way, because I don't know about you, but I am sick and tired with the way politics and campaigning is actually running, and we need some solid change. Travis, thank you very much for joining me on the Chris Michaels Show. Do not be a stranger. Feel free to come back at any time. And I wish you the best. I will be following along.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, Travis.